Okay, so the topic that we will discuss, try to understand today for the memory of Tamar Alice Bat Oded Alea Shalom, תהא נשמתה צרורה בצרור החיים. So this lecture will be dedicated, this shiur will be dedicated to her memory and will be a zchus for her neshama. So the topic will be Jewish identity in our time. Our time, we live in a not simple time in general. When we talk about the Jewish nation is not in the best time that it was during the history. And many people, we have a real crisis of Jewish identity among young people all over the world, including in Israel. And we have to just, and I want to, with you, learn the essence of what Judaism is all about. Okay? So we will start from different sources in the Tanakh, and I'll put them together in order to enhance our understanding of what Judaism is all about. Why it's important? It's important because the Jewish nation during the entire history was threatened by different forces that wish to eliminate us as a nation, and especially us an idea, and give substitute instead, or just eliminate us altogether. I just want to show you an amazing verse in Tehillim, in Psalms, that was written 3,000 years ago, approximately 2,900 years ago, by King David. So in Tehillim, there is a verse in chapter 83, verse 5. It speaks about nation at the times that was their idea. I read it in Hebrew. אמרו לכו ונכחידם מגוי ולא ייזכר שם ישראל עוד. They said, they declare, let us cut them off from nationhood, so Israel's name will not be remembered any longer. And we're talking about not today, not 100 years ago, not in the Inquisition time. We're talking about 3,000 years ago. So since we appear on the stage of the world, there is something very weird that people wants to eliminate us. And the question is why? Why? Because after all this 3,300 years of history of the Jewish nation, we saw this evil trying to eliminate the Jews in many, many situations, and different ones. It's not just because of the poor Palestinians. It's not because of, at the time of the Inquisition, because I'm showing you here the verse before Christianity exists. So there is something very strong with the Jewish faith that bothered the nations of the world. What is this? If we will understand it, we could understand who we are, and therefore decide if we're proud of what we are and we want to continue it, or maybe not. But we have to know who we are. So I want to analyze this by just searching the reason that we called Jews. The question is why? Apparently we are Jewish, or we call Jews, because of Yehuda. Yehuda was the fourth son of Yaakov. He was one of the tribes. The thing is, he was only one out of 12. And among us, we have Kohanim and Leviim. And the Kohanim and the Leviim among us, for sure, are not from the tribe of Yehuda. And yet, they called Jews, Yehudim. So actually, the right or the precise name of us should be Yisrael, because we are all the sons of Yaakov Avinu, which his second name was Israel. So, okay, there is a country now called Israel, but the Jews are all over the world called Jews, Yehudim. It's apparently on the name of Yehuda. The question is why? Why? Let me show you something that I guess many people do not know. Even people who are knowledgeable and learn Tanakh and know Tanakh and read the parasha every week. Let's see. When Yaakov Avinu, at the end of his life, the last day of his life, was in Egypt with all the tribes, all his sons around his bed, he gathered them and he wanted to reveal to them what's going to happen at the end of days, as it's mentioned at the end of Sefer Bereshit, at the end of Genesis. Then he changed his mind, doesn't matter why, and he, instead of revealing what's going to happen at the end of days, he blessed each one of the tribes. He gave each one of them a blessing, which is designing the role of this particular tribe on the Jewish nation that's going to be. Okay? So let's go to the blessing that he gave to his fourth son, Yehuda. And here, quote one verse from there. Here it is. Yehuda, ata yoducha achecha, yadcha be'oref oivecha, yishtachavu lecha bnei avicha. You see the translation over here. Actually, there is one word that's missing over here. Yehuda, you, your brother shall acknowledge. Yoducha achecha, they acknowledge you. Your hand will be against your enemy's nap. Your father's sons will prostrate themselves to you. They will bow down to you. They'll acknowledge you. What is the meaning of this? So if you go to the next verses, you'll see that he actually make him the king. Yehuda is the king. From Yehuda came King David and King Solomon, the dynasty of kings that comes from Yehuda. So everyone will be bowed down or acknowledge him as the leader, even though he was the fourth son, not the firstborn, right? So this is the simple understanding of this. But there is something very interesting. It's mentioned in the Midrash, and actually, as you know, the Torah was translated to Aramaic. The well-known translation is Onkelos. Onkelos translates the Torah from Hebrew to Aramaic because at the time the Aramaic was more the common language, so it will need to translate it. So Onkelos usually translate the Torah word by word. The word in Hebrew, the parable word, the word in Aramaic, literal. But there are another more translate to Aramaic, one of them called Targum Yerushalmi. Targum Yerushalmi translate also to Aramaic, but not like Onkelos. It's not a literal, but also with the idea behind. So sometimes he gives more words to the translation. Let me show you what Targum Yerushalmi says about this particular pasuk, this particular verse. Here it is. Yehuda ata yoducha achecha, this is the verse. Yadcha be'oref oivecha yishtachavu lecha bnei avicha. So down is the translation in Hebrew letters. In English, which is a translation of a translation, so it's a little bit more, okay, it's not simple, it's not exact the same, but that's it. Yehuda, to you all your brothers shall acknowledge, and from your name shall all be called Jewish, Judy. That Targum Yerushalmi. So what actually written over here? That Yaakov Avinu, which has the right that the entire nation will be on his name, he gave this privilege to Yehuda. And he told him, all your brothers will be called Jews after you. He gave him this privilege. They will not be called Reuvenites, Shimonites, they will called Yehudim after you, on your name. The question is, why? So Yaakov himself give this present to Yehuda. The question is why? In order to understand this, we have to go to the origin name of Yehuda. When Yehuda was born, it's mentioned in the Torah, and let's jump now to chapter 29, when Yehuda was born to Leah. Leah was the mother of Yehuda, and here the Torah gives us the reason why Leah chose this name for Yehuda. So it's written, I'll read the Hebrew first. ותהר עוד ותלד בן, ותאמר הפעם אודה את השם. על כן קראה שמו יהודה ותעמוד מלדת. She conceived again and bore a son and declared. She gave a declaration. This time, let me gratefully praise Hashem. This time, gratefully praise Hashem. Therefore, she called his name Yehuda. Okay. You have to understand the original Hebrew in order to understand the connection, because in English it doesn't make any sense. What's the connection between praising Hashem to the name Yehuda, right? So I have to know, very, very interesting, in Hebrew, in the modern Hebrew, but it's based on the original holy language, the language of the Tanakh. How do you say thank you in Hebrew? Toda. How do you say acknowledge, confirm? Lehodot, admit. Lehodot. So when someone says something and I say, I agree with you, I admit it. I say it in Hebrew, ani modeh. I acknowledge, I admit, I confirm it. So, when Leah has her baby Yehuda, she said, this time I want to thank God. Therefore, and thank is odeh, toda. Therefore, she gave the name Yehuda. Yehuda include in it those two meanings, to admit and to thank. Now there is something very, very deep, that it's a whole big thing by itself. I have a whole lecture on this, but a whole thing, but it's in Hebrew, unfortunately. It's on YouTube. If you understand Hebrew and want to enrich your knowledge about this, what is the meaning, the real meaning of a name? What is a real name? Name is a definition of the one who got the name. And we could show it. Real name, what do you mean real name? If you go to the Bible, you will see that every name has a meaning. Has a meaning. It's not just by the tribes. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Avraham, Av Hamon Goyim, you are a father of nations. Yitzchak, he called on the laugh because it was impossible that he will be born, and he was born by miracle, so it's a laugh. Yitzchak, Yaakov, he was holding the heel of his brother. So every name has a meaning. And the Kabbalah teaches us that it's actually when parents give a name, a real name, to their child, it's a prophecy. It's the definition of the design of the personality of this baby, what it's gonna be. Okay? I want to show you that over here in this case. Yehuda was called Yehuda because he was we said in the meaning of the word Yehuda are acknowledge and thank, right? If you know, in the life of Yehuda, we find it when it was a story with Tamar, if you're familiar with what I'm talking about. It was Tamar gets pregnant, and it was a whole story to verify who is the father. And actually Yehuda was the father of the fetus that was in her stomach. For him, so she told him, you know what? You know who's the baby. Who's the father of this baby? And she let him, and he could deny it or admit it. If he will admit it, he will be very embarrassed, and he did it anyways. So we see that in his character, he saying the truth even if it's not comfortable. He goes for the truth. So you find out that the name that he got actually came or actualized in his character later on in his life. And here come the major thing. You know, this coming Shabbat will be Shabbat Mevarchim, because next Shabbat is Rosh Chodesh Adar. In Adar we have Purim, and in Purim we recite the Megillah. So let's go to the Megillah, and I want to show you something in the Megillah, and then what the Gemara says about what mentioned in the Megillah. You remember the story of Purim? It was a king by the name of Achashverosh. He has a wife by the name Vashti. In the beginning of the Megillah, it's mentioned that he made a party. She refused to come. He killed her. And then he looked for another queen. And he looked and looked and looked. And he found at the end Esther. He never knew that Esther is Jewish. And he married her. At the same time was in his cabinet a minister called Haman. And Haman got upgraded, and he became the prime. He made him, Achashverosh made him a prime minister, and everyone should bow down to him because he got upgraded. So the king said, "Okay, everyone will bow down to him, even though I'm the king, but I want to validate his new state, the new level of Haman, so everyone will bow down to him." So the story was that everyone bowed down to him, but Mordechai. Mordechai was the uncle of Esther, and he was around the palace over there, and everyone was bowing down to Haman. Mordechai refused to bow down to him. Why? Because Haman, the Gemara says he made himself idol. He was so arrogant, and he felt, wow, I got this state that the king said that everyone will bow down to him. He felt that he is God. So Mordechai refused to bow down to him. First of all, Jews bow down only to God, to Hashem. And for sure not to a person. That caused the entire thing. And then Haman, when he was aware of this, he decided to kill all of the Jews, And that's the story of the Megillah. And then Esther saved us. God saved us through Esther. And this is the story of Purim, right? Okay, this is the background for those who need to know what Purim is all about. Now let's go to the Megillah. In Megillah's Esther, in the scroll of Esther, it says in the 2nd chapter, the 5th verse, it says like this: Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira, ushmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Shim'i ben Kish ish Yamini. It was a Jewish man in Shushan, the capital Shushan, whose name was Mordechai, son of Yair of Shim'i of Kish, a Benjamite. A Benjamite. Mordechai came from the tribe of Binyamin, which is the little son of Yaakov. Ish Yamini came from Binyamin. But the verse called him Ish Yehudi, a Jewish man. On this, ask the Gemara in Masechet Megillah. The Gemara in Masechet Megillah asks, Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira, kari leYehudi, alma miYehuda ka'ati. In the beginning, the verse called him Ish Yehudi. If it's Ish Yehudi, if he's a Yehudi man, it means that he came from the tribe of Yehuda. And then you continue and said, Ish Yemini, that he came from Binyamin. So what's going on over here? Is he from Binyamin? Or is he from Yehuda? That's a question that the Gemara asks. Look to the answer. This is it. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Le'olam mi Binyamin ka'ati. Actually, he was from the tribe of Binyamin. Because it's mentioned over there the names of his father and grandfather. He came from the tribe of Binyamin. And why, says the Gemara, why the Megillah called him Ish Yehudi? Al Shem shekafar be'avodah zara. Because he denied the idol. What was the idol? Haman, that everyone was bowing down to him. So he denied this. Al shum shekafar be'avodah zara. And here's the definition. Shekol hakofer be'avodah zara nikra Yehudi. Anyone who deny the lie of the idols called Jewish. Why? Because Yehuda is to admit. So if you admit that there is only one God, that include in it that you deny all the other false gods. This is the definition of being Jewish. That's what the Gemara says. Shekol hakofer be'avodah zara nikra Yehudi. So we learn from here what is the meaning to be Jewish. And why we are not that popular among the nations of the world. They have their own beliefs. They have their own ideas, their own philosophies, their own idols. And we said no, there is only one God, that's the real one, and all the rest and all the others are false. That could cause people angriness. Why? You have the truth? Everyone else is wrong? How come you're not tolerant? Just accept everyone. You have your own faith. Let others be. And actually, in a way, we do not force anyone to believe in our God. But the fact that we said, strong, loud and clear, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. There is only one God who is the creator of the universe. That declaration irritates the anti-Semites. And that's why. Now, let me just say something really deep. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What is Echad? One. What is really one? There are ones, but there is one. All the ones that we mention in everyday conversation about many things is not a real ones. What do I mean by this? Let's talk about, I'll give you simple examples, right? One table, one chair, one person, one building. What do we mean when we say one? It's one table compared to other tables. Relate to other tables. This is one of them. One chair, one person, one building, one. But it's only a relative one. It's not an absolute one. What do I mean by that? In order for one to be one, it has to be only one. Table has components. Legs, a plate, chair has legs, has, it's different components that comes together. So it's not one. As a chair, it's one, but it's not really one. And so all the ones that we're talking about, it's one compared to more than one, but it's not really one. And actually, if you look around you, try to find real one thing, you will never find it. No one thing in the creation. Let me prove this. What is one? Again, one is not two. If it's more than one component, it's not one. Now take a little piece of dust. It's very simple, right? Is it one? No, it's two. It's the material and the frame or the form of it. It's two already. Therefore, in our way of thinking, in our concept, we could not find a real absolute one. But we could think about it abstractively. God, Hashem, is the absolute one. Absolute one, now, any material thing could not be one. Because you have the material and the frame or the form of it. This is already two. And take into account that every physical thing has a limitation of time and space. The limitation in space make it from here to here. So you have the material and the borders of the material. This is two. Hashem, when we said in the depth, when we said that Hashem is one, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, He is one because He is not physical. And He's one because He is really one. It's something that we could not even imagine. We could know what it is not, but we do not really understand what it is. The one has no limits. Only physical things has limits. Hashem is not physical. And He is the only one. And this is the basic principle in Judaism, that there is one non-physical God. He is the absolute one. This is so annoying. Let me explain why. Why it's annoying. Why the nation of the world do not like this idea. I'll tell you why. This week, parasha, we will read in the Torah, Parashat Yitro. In Parashat Yitro, we have the 10 Commandments. Everyone knows about the 10 Commandments, right? What is the first one? אנוכי השם אלוקיך אשר הוצאתיך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. By the way, I could not hold it. The Christians believe in the 10 Commandments, right? It's the basic thing in their faith, the 10 Commandments, right? So let me tell you, once I had a conversation, friendly conversation, with the Christian scholars. pastor and things like this, you know. So they told me they want to be really friendly, and they said, you know what, we have a lot in common. You're Jewish, we're Christians, but we have in common the Ten Commandments. I told them, you know what, this is a good opportunity. Long time I'm looking for a Christian scholar, because I have really something that I want to understand about your faith. You're talking about the Ten Commandments. Could you explain to me the first one? What is it? And how it's connected to any Christian? What is it? Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher hotzaticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibet avadim. I'm God, your God, who took you out of Egypt from the house of slavery. Right? How it's relevant to any Christian in the history. Christians were in Egypt. God took them out of Egypt? No. So what Christian has to do with this? And by the way, what is the commandment here? Even for Jews. The second one is don't bow down to idols. Okay? Don't mention the name of God for nothing. Honor your parents, keep Shabbat, don't kill, don't steal, whatever, right? You could understand what the meaning. What is the first one? What is the mitzvah? What is the commandment? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, it means like, you know, it's a business card. You know, who am I? I'm God who took you out of Egypt. So first of all, I ask the Christians how it's relevant to you. You never were in Egypt. God never took you out of Egypt. So in the good case, you have 9. Don't talk about 10 commandments. In the good case, you have 9. Actually, they have problem even with the rest. Take the second one. What is the second? לא יהיה לך אלוהים אחרים על פניי, לא תעשה לך פסל וכל תמונה. Right? Don't have other gods but me. Don't make any statue. How Christians gonna deal with this? Their church is full of statues. And God say, no statues? So even with the second one, they have a problem. And what about Shabbat? They never keep Shabbat. לא תעשה כל מלאכה, do not any work on the 7th day. So, okay, but again, let's concentrate on us. Leave the Christians now aside. The second commandment, the second, הדיבר השני בעשרת הדיברות. God saying, after Hashem said, אנוכי השם אלוקיך אשר הוצאתיך מארץ מצרים. And we know that God is one, right? Then he said, God himself, לא יהיה לך, don't have, he's talking to the Jewish nation, don't have any other gods. Now it says there, it's written in plural. לא יהיה לך אלוהים אחרים. It doesn't say לא יהיה לך אלוה אחר. אלוהים אחרים. Gods. Other gods. In plural. Elohim אחרים are in plural. And let's go back to the thing that I want to emphasize. God is one. There is only one. And he is the absolute one. What's the difference between one and more than one? When you have two, each one of the two is limited in order to give room to the other. Because if we will take the entire space, there will be no room for the other. So when you have two, every two means that each one of the two is limited. When you have one, there are no limits. He is everything. Why the Gentiles so annoyed by this idea of one God? Let me tell you. When you have one, you have no choice. There is only one. When you have more than one, you could do whatever you want and create a God that will fit you. You have room to play. You could do whatever you want and choose the God that fit your ideas. So who is God? You. You decide which God you adopt. When there is only one truth, you have no room to play with it. This is the truth. You have to fit yourself to the truth. If you have more than one, you could choose anything and decide that this is your truth, this is your idol, this is your idea, this is your philosophy, this is your God. That's why. That's why they hate us so much. Because we brought this idea to the world. Avraham Avinu discovered it and spread it, and this is very annoying. We suffered so much because of this during the history. Literally. They killed us, they hate us because of this. This is, deep down, this is the thing. But we are Yehuda. We admit that this is the truth, and we do not care. And when they try to kill us, they did. Many, many Jews stand proud at the moment of their death and declare one thing. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. This is the truth. It's worth more than anything, even more than my life. You could kill me, said the Jews to the one who killed him. You could kill me. You could kill my body. You could not kill my soul. You could not kill my idea. You're physically stronger than me. I'm intellectually and morally stronger than you. And that's why we won. We won. The idea is there. And we are eternity. We are the eternal nation. שבכל דור ודור עומדים עלינו לכלותנו והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם. In every generation you find the volunteer anti-Semites that take themselves and declare it, I'm gonna kill all the Jews and do the dirty work for the rest, because they support, sometimes positively, sometimes passively, and we're still here. And this is the miracle. If you want to see a real miracle, just give it 5 minutes of thinking. How it's possible that the Jewish nation is still here? It's complete miracle. In numbers, just get the numbers. The population of the world is about 7.6 billion people, approximately. Now, Jews all over the world. You know what is the number? We do not know the exact number of Jews, but approximately we're talking about 14 million. 14 million Jews. You know how much is it in percentage? 1% of 7.6 billion is 76 million. 14 million is less than 1/4%. Out of those 14 million Jews, how many Jews live their life Jewish? Meaning, know that there is God. Take Him in account in their life. Eat kosher. Perform Jewish laws. How many? How many? Only the Orthodox Jews. You know how many Orthodox Jews are all over the world out of the 14 million? maybe 2 million. Maybe. I'm talking about Jews who take Judaism seriously. They keep the laws of Torah. No games. Maybe 2 million all over the world. In Eretz Israel and all over the world. Maybe 2 million. And yet we hear. We hear today, same way we hear, we exist. Not just the Jews physically, the Jewish idea exists against all the chances. Real miracle. Real miracle. Unfortunately, so many Jews do not know what Judaism is all about. They're so confused. Is it relevant, not relevant? It's still relevant to keep Shabbat, to eat kosher. Many Jews has confusion about this. We're paying the price as a nation, assimilation. Many Jews that they have no real knowledge about what Judaism is all about and not practicing it, they lose their children. Intermarriage, assimilation. But the Jewish idea is here. It doesn't matter how many, but it's still there against all chances. How important it is to learn Judaism. You know, we're so angry and we so about the Holocaust. When the Nazis, Yimach Shemam v'Zichram, killed Jews, 1/3 of the Jewish nation. Every Jew in the world feels, how could you do such a thing? But you know what? In order to keep the Jewish idea, we have to learn Judaism. Judaism is a whole philosophy, very deep, very rich, very beautiful. Many of us all over the world know very, very little, if at all, about it. And that's the thing. When we talk about Jewish identity is not a national, it's not, identify yourself with Israel, because Israel itself culturally is part of the Western world. Many Jews in Israel do not know Torah. The vast majority of the Jews in Israel are secular, meaning they do not interested in learning real Torah, real Chokhmah, real Gemara. They're not in this. So they live their life as everyone else in the world. Assimilation didn't start under the chuppah when you got married. There is a cultural assimilation, and it is in Israel, the same way it is all over the world. And this way, we do not have the confidence to give to our children that they will want to be part of the Jewish nation. I'm talking about the philosophy of the Jewish nation. We are unique. We are the nation of God. We are the chosen people. Many Jews feel so uncomfortable with this notion, chosen people. Why I'm so chosen? Unfortunately, the Goyim knows Christians over the evangelist will say that with respect. You are the chosen people. And many of us will feel uncomfortable with this because we do not really understand and appreciate it. So the thing is, we have to know what Judaism is all about. Judaism is to be proud of knowing the truth. We are the only nation in the world that God Himself revealed Himself to us and gave us the Torah. And everyone in the world admits with this. Again, Christian says, yeah, you used to be the Jewish, the chosen nation. But now it's different after Jesus, right? But they admit that the revelation at Sinai, God Himself, according what's written in the Torah, that God Himself, panim befanim diber Hashem imachem. The entire nation has the experience of meeting God themselves, not from a person who told them. That's not the case with Christianity. How many Christians met God? That didn't even met Jesus. They was told about Jesus that was in Israel. It was brought to Europe, but no one saw anything. Was no revelation. So they admit that the only nation of the world that God meet them, gave them the Torah, was the Jewish nation. We have no clue today. Many of us, we have no clue about this. We think, it's an old history story. Who said that it's true? Who said it's accurate? And this way you lose your confidence. And it is true. We should learn it. This is the meaning to be Jewish. Every Jew, in the morning, the first words that you should say when you wake up every morning, and observant Jews do that, and those who are not doing this now, their parents did, or the grandparents, during the history. The first word that you say every morning is Modeh Ani. Modeh Yehuda. Modeh Ani lefanecha. I'm thanking you, God, that you give me another day, that you give me a soul, that you return my soul to my body. When you start the day this way, you know who you are. You look at the mirror, you know that what you see in the mirror is not you, is that the package, the physical package, that in it is you, your neshama. So when those are the first words that you say every morning, the entire day look different. I'm not just another person. I'm not just another physical creature. I'm a soul in a body, and therefore the entire day should be run differently. I have a spiritual entity in me, neshama, the soul. So, Modeh Ani lefanecha. To be Jewish is to admitting the truth. Yehudi equal hoda'ah, acknowledgement. Yehuda is now look at this. Remember we said Yaakov, actually we should be called Yisrael, because Yaakov Avinu, his name was Israel, and he gave the privilege to Yehuda. All my sons will be called Yehudim, according to you. Let me show you another one deep thing. Yehuda and Israel actually is the same thing. It's like a coin that has two sides. What is Israel? What is the meaning of the word Israel? The last two letters are God, El. What's the first? The first is Yisra. Yisra meaning ruler. כי שרית עם אלוקים, להיות כל איש שורר בביתו, ruler. So the word Yisrael, in it, 5 letters, actually is the entire philosophy of the Jewish nation. What is the entire philosophy? That there is El, and he is the ruler of the universe. He is the ruler of the creation. He is the creator. Yisrael. El, God, is the ruler. What is Yehuda? Why Mordechai called Yehuda? Because he denied the idol. Kofer ba'avodah zarah. So Yehuda is, I admit that there is one God, therefore I deny all the false gods. So it's the same thing. It's the two sides of the coin. Yisrael is the positive, there is one God. Yehuda is denying the false. Okay? This is the same. So Yehudi is hoda'ah, acknowledgement. I admit the truth, and because of this I deny the false. And I'm thanking God. Modeh la emet. Modeh, we said those two meanings in the word todah. Hoda'ah, acknowledgement, and thank you. They're both actually is in the word in the meaning of being Jewish. So practically we have to know. Unfortunately, many Jews have no idea what Judaism is all about. The last thing that I'll show to you in brief, even though it needs for sure a lot of learning, is what Rabbeinu Saadia Gaon said. Rabbeinu Saadia Gaon, Arasag, said, En umateinu uma ela betorata. What makes us a nation is not a land, because a piece of land, because the vast majority of the history of the Jewish nation, we didn't have a land. Close to 2,000 years we are scattered all over the world. And yet, we still kept our identity as Jews. Not because of the land, not because even of the language. Many Jews during the last 2,000 years do not speak the same language. They speak different languages, depend where they were in the world. So no common land, no common language, no common history. We were not together for the last 2,000 years in the same place. What make us one? Our Torah. All over the world, in the last 2,000 years, all over the world, the Jews every Shabbat learn the same portion of the Torah. Doesn't matter where. Kept the same Pesach, kept the same Sukkot, and all the holidays, which is, this is what makes us a nation. That's what makes us Jewish. So don't give up on it. We should continue it. We should stick to it. That's what makes us, when we talk about Jewish identity, this is the Jewish identity. In philosophy, there are something called the 13 principles in Judaism. The 13 principles, let's just go through them briefly and we'll conclude with this. The first one is the existence of the Creator, the absolute oneness of the Creator, that the Creator is not physical, that He is above time. He created the time. He is above time. Time is not limited to Him. He created the time. Therefore, He is the only one that we could turn into in order to help us, or anything that we need to exist. Worship only Him exclusively. Believe in that He connected people through prophecy. The exclusively and specialty of the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses, that He gave us the Torah. He, God Himself, gave us the Torah, the entire Torah. That the Torah will never be changed. That there is supervision. That there is a reward system. That Hashem going to redeem us and the entire nation at the end of days by Mashiach. And that He is almighty and He promised to revive the people who passed away. Those are the 13 principles. Each one of them need learning, and each one of them is a whole philosophical, deep philosophical idea that many Jews unfortunately do not know about. They never learned this. But this is the meaning to be Jewish. To know those philosophical principles, understand them, identify with them. That would make us what we are and what we will be, the eternal Jewish nation forever. Okay, that's in brief what we could cover at this session. Again, for the memory of Tamar Alice Bat Oded, and Hashem will remember her and put her in a good place. Teh nishmata tzrura b'tzror ha'chaim. Okay, that's my portion. From now on, if you want, could make a discussion. Just 1 minute.